Well, hello everybody! Welcome back to G-Bear's Off-Grid Ways, a homestead in the desert on June 6th, 2020. 6/6/20. Alright, so here we go. Today I got to address a couple of questions that I received through email. One of the off-gridders is getting ready to do some plumbing for his cabin, and wanted to know how I handled the situation for plumbing in my cabin. All right, I used a product called Shark Bite. And let's see, this is the 1/2 inch. Let me see if I can get it in focus there. You see it says right on it, Shark Bite. Okay, now what's so good about Shark Bite? Well, for one, it is a really easy way of doing your plumbing. There's no soldering. There's no pipe threading. There's no weird things that you have to do. You just have to buy a couple of tools, which are not really a big expense, and you're going to use them again down the line if you add on to anything. So buy them. Okay, here's some of the tools. This is a cutter. Okay, now this cutter will handle 1/2 inch and 3/4, but I don't think it'll do 1 inch. For the 1 inch, I just use a regular set of the ratcheting PVC cutters for irrigation pipe. Now this is a reamer. It actually does a taper on the outside edge of the pipe here, so that these are the fittings. This is a 1/2 inch male adapter fitting. You see inside of it, it's got a little plastic piece in there, and then it's got these stainless steel teeth all the way around, and that's the Shark Bite. So the way this works is you actually just put it right there, and that plastic piece fits inside of the pipe, and then you push it in until it seats. That's it. Your connection's made. Okay, so now I got a male adapter on here, so I can screw a angle stop to go up to a sink faucet or something like that onto here. They make these in L shapes and all of that. Okay, here's a 3/4 inch female adapter. And let me get this out of the bag. I bought these because I'm going to be, down the line, I'm going to be teeing off of my existing underground piping plumbing coming toward the cabin. And I'm going to be putting some outdoor hose bibs out, so I don't have to have hoses laying all over the ground. I've been teased about those before, and you guys know which ones you are that are teasing me. Anyway, there's a 3/4 inch unit, and this is 3/4 inch Shark Bite pipe. They make it in red, blue, and white, and whatever. If you want to color code your pipes so you know which one's hot and cold, use red for hot and blue for cold, and you'll be all set up. Oh, the wind's blowing the door shut. I hope it doesn't get too dark in here. So anyway, what this reamer does is you place it over the end of your pipe like this, and you see the little carbide bit there. Well, if you push down as you're turning in a clockwise motion, you see it peeling off right there. Okay. And what it did was it made a slight taper on here. So when you push these together, it slides right on. You'll hear it seat at the bottom, and that's it. Your connection is made. No soldering, no flame, no burning down your cabin or anything like that. Okay, so this cutter, you see the arrows on it, that tells you which direction to rotate it. So it's just spring loaded. You see it like that. So you just set it over your pipe like this and get it even with the edge where you want to cut it. You can align that right on your mark where you're going to cut. Now this says turn this way. So we rotate this way just a couple of times, and that's it. It's cut off. There's the little piece I cut off. Then you take your reamer and you place your reamer over the pipe and turn in a clockwise position while pushing down, and it peels that little curl off of there. That takes the sharp edge off the outside, not the inside. So when you push your Shark Bite fitting on, it'll that plastic piece on the inside right there will go right inside of the pipe, and you press it down and lock it, and it will not leak. Trust me, will not leak. And they make hose bib connections that have a hollow bell on them. I'll show you that when we go outside and I go past the cabin. They have a hollowed bell on them to prevent freezing in the wintertime. And they've seen some experiments done with the shark bite where it actually surpassed other pipes like copper and that stuff for freezing. But just remember, if you are in a freeze zone where you get deep freezes in the wintertime, where it drops below zero for days and weeks at a time, you want to bury your pipe in the ground deep enough so it's below the frost line. And you can look up on the internet, on Google, what the frost line is for your area. If your frost line here in the desert, it's probably only 1 inch. We get freezing temperatures for a while, but it doesn't go much deeper than 1 inch into the soil. So you can bury your pipes at 1 foot deep, but just remember that this is plastic pipe. So don't bury it where you're going to be digging again later. You're going to drive a shovel through here, because then you'll have to use a coupler or something. They make these in coupler sets that will press onto the pipe. You can just cut it, ream it with your reamer, and so forth. Now, how do you take it apart if you want to? Well, they make these little removal tools. Okay, so this is one for the 1/2 inch. This is one for 1 inch. You see the difference in size. Okay, so all you have to do is snap this around the pipe, go like this, and there's a little plastic collar. Let me see if I can show you on here. There's a little tan plastic collar around these fittings. Okay, so if you compress that piece into the fitting, it retracts the shark teeth. So you can squeeze it like this, get it released, and you can slide it right off, and you can replace your fitting. So if you made it the wrong size, you can always correct your problem. Isn't that cool? So like I said, this stuff is really easy to work with. So in my place, I have 1 inch coming off my water tank that runs down to the cabin, and then it goes into 3/4 inch, and I may put a hose bib on the 3/4 inch, and I put a valve on there so I can shut off the water to the cabin down at the cabin. If there's a problem in the cabin, I don't have to take my time running 300 feet up to the water tank and losing all that extra water. I can just step outside, just like you have on your house. You have a water main outside, and I use a ball valve on there, so I just one lever switch, that's it, it's off. Okay, so this is the way to go. Now, how do I get pressure at my faucets for showering and all of that? Well, I use one of these Motorhome pump sets. Let me get this down into vision here. Okay, so this is it. This runs on 12 volts. That's another reason I like having a 12-volt solar system. You can get these in all different voltages, but I prefer the 12-volt because this stuff is very inexpensive. I think this whole pump right here, when I bought it, was only $19 with the tax and everything. It wasn't that expensive. But the heads on these things are made of plastic. And you can see they're threaded here for 1/2 inch pipe thread. So you can actually take 1/2 inch pipe threaded fittings and thread them right on there. Put a little bit of True Blue is my favorite sealant. You can buy that at Home Depot. But be careful tightening these things. You only want to tighten them enough so that they don't leak. This has an extra female coupler on it because when I was putting this together, I was working in the cabinet. I gave it 1 turn too much or 1/4 turn too much, and it broke the plastic housing. So I used epoxy, and I epoxied this piece on there. But it did leak a little bit down the line, so I ended up taking this out. The pump is still good, and you could buy replacement heads for these. So that's why I still have this. It'll be a backup pump if I need it. And these are pressure operated. So the water comes down, all your faucets are shut off. It goes into the pump. The pump pumps it until it gets to the faucets, and as long as they're shut off, there's no place for the water to go. A pressure switch in here shuts the pump off automatically. Okay, so all you need to hook up is positive the red and negative is black. That's it. You got those two wires to hook up to a 12-volt battery system. All right, or you could use a 120 volt down to a 12-volt transformer and do the same thing. But this thing is a 3 gallon per minute flow, but this pumps up your pressure to 55 psi. Okay, so 55 psi is good pressure for a normal house. Now you will hear this thing run, and they mount it on these rubber mounts so that they hold and stop vibration when you fasten to the inside of the cabinet. But just like in a motorhome, you will hear this thing run when it turns on. So I ran mine through a switch. I've got a light switch on the wall, and it's just a regular light switch for a house, but I just wired the hot wire through the light switch so I can cut the power to the pump when I'm not around. That way, if there's a leak or something while I'm not around the place, say I'm in town for the day, and I come back, if this pump was still connected to electricity and I sprung a leak somewhere, this thing would just keep on running till it burnt out. And it would just pump all of the water out of my tank. Well, too bad. I don't want that. So shut the power off to it when it's not in use or when you're going to be away for any given length of time, and you don't have to worry about that happening. So that's how I got pressure up to the sink. And once you put all your plumbing in, then yes, you just use, the question on that I got on that was, just use regular faucets and all of that kind of stuff. You can use regular shower valves, service lines, angle stops on the wall. I like the quarter turn ones because you can, if you have to shut off to the faucet, you got a problem, quarter turn and it's off. And a lot of people don't know this, even those people out there living in houses. Every 6 months, go around, reach underneath the sink, and close off your angle stops and open them back up again. If you don't work those things, when you do need to go get them, they'll be frozen. Excuse me, I'm going to sneeze. Excuse me. Okay, so we got this all covered. This is SharkBite. This is how you do plumbing in your house. So we're going to move on out of here because we're getting up there in minutes. This is going to be a long video tonight because I got a couple of questions I need to cover and address. And I'm going to try to get everything in today, and I'll also show you my accomplishments. One other thing, I had a question about the flooring and worrying that there'd be a possibility of dropping a hammer on it and damaging it if I was doing work after I put the floor in. Okay, so here's a hammer. There's a piece of the flooring. Here's the hammer up at about 3 feet, and here we go. All right, you saw it hit the board, bounce off, and there you go. Not a mark on it. No dents, no nothing. This stuff is very durable. It's compressed fiber board, and it's really, really durable. So don't worry about putting the floor in and then dropping a hammer on it and causing damage to it. But there is a wax. I did find the wax, and I got that. I've got to empty out the rooms, but the winds are blowing again, gusting up in the mid to high 20s all day. And it looks like we're going to get this for another 2 days in a row. So I have to work around it. That's why I was working inside today. Not inside the cabin completely, but actually working out in the shop. And I'm going to show you what I did on that at the end of this video. So stay tuned to see the new things that I've put into the cabin. You're going to like that. Okay, we're heading out to the plumbing area. Here's one of those SharkBite. You can see the SharkBite emblem on the handle. And that's the hose bib. with the bell housing on it to prevent freezing in the wintertime. Pretty cool. Okay, so I did come off of my tank, like I said, with that 1-inch shock bite pipe, and I buried it all underground, all the way up from the tank, all the way down under through here. And then I came up over here and I wrapped this with insulated wrap for the winter time because it's exposed to the outdoors. So I didn't want my pipes freezing. So this has worked. Then I also made a little styrofoam box right here that I fit over this whole thing in the winter time, and it helps give me a little bit more insulation around this piping. Okay, this is my propane lines going in, and this is my drain line coming off of my sink. And why is it outside like this? Well, I am going to end up putting a soffit box over the top of it to hide it, but I didn't want to put all my plumbing underground under the cabin where I couldn't get through it or to it if I had a problem. So I brought it to the outside of the cabin and then ran it in the ground, and there's a 4-inch ABS pipe running out to my gray water pit. Now, no solid waste goes down my drains inside the cabin. I use the outhouse for solid waste. I have a composting toilet for those cold winter days. So I have a composting toilet sitting right beside my real toilet in the bathroom. And the only thing that goes down the real toilet is urine, so I don't have to go outside in the nighttime and step on a rattlesnake just because I had to get rid of half of that last beer I had before bed. All right, so that's how you do your plumbing. The piping for the sinks and that stuff, I did run inside the walls on the inside of the cabin behind the cabinets so that it would be insulated for the winter time. Now remember, if you're going to do that, don't put it up against your outside paneling. Put it against the inside paneling and put insulation between this paneling and your piping so that your pipes won't freeze in the wintertime. All right? Now, like I said, we don't get hardcore freezes here. I've seen the water freeze in buckets and things like that, get a little sheet of ice over the top of it, but it never really gets down to a point where I couldn't take a shovel and dig a hole if I wanted to. All right, so we got that covered, and we're gonna go to the last thing. Oh yeah, that's over here. The other question I got was about solar panels and where to mount them and which direction to place them in. Okay, your best option on solar panels is facing them south. Okay, now I did show once before how to determine the best direction for your panels. Now these two sets of 100 watts each of Harbor Freight panels, I set them up this way for this time of year because the sun comes up over there. I want these panels grabbing that first 100 watts as soon as the sun comes up, because it doesn't get up to these panels quick enough. It looks like I'm gonna have to wash my panels too. So this gives me 100 watts earlier in the morning, starting at like 5:30 a.m. These are getting 100 watts going into the batteries already. So my batteries stay up to par, and that runs my coffee maker in the morning, so it doesn't draw off the batteries, it draws off the solar. Okay, so these panels here are facing south, and I've got them almost up flat now because like I said, the sun comes up over there and it passes almost completely overhead. There it is right there, and it'll go down right over that mountain. Okay, so these in this position get the most sun on them. And how do you tell if that's going to be the best position? Well, I've done this before. I don't know if I have anything I can do it with out here because I wasn't prepared to do this. But you take any straight object and plant it on the ground midday, middle of the day. And when I say middle of the day, I don't mean 12 noon. I mean, if the sun comes up at 5:30 a.m. and sets at 8:30, then you want the hour that's right in between those two times. So 5 to 20:30 would be 10 and a half hours, or 10 1/4 hours. So you go 5 plus 10, it'd be 15. That'd be 3 o'clock in the afternoon. That's when your sun is going to be mid-sky. All right. So you're going to set this up at 3 p.m. You're going to come out and you're going to look at where the shadow goes. Okay. Now it would normally be right where I'm standing behind this, but since the sun's on its going down to set right now, it's showing it on that side. Now the angle, the perfect angle to get the best sun would be from the top of this 2x4 to the top of the shadow. So that angle, which is the hypotenuse, that angle right there would be the perfect direction to aim the panels at this time of day to get the best sunlight. Okay, so if I had these on a tracking system, they would be leaning like this right now, pointing right at the sun and then getting the best sun. Like my second set of panels over there, my solar Harbor Freight panels, those are in the best position right now. All right, since we're getting pretty long here, we're going to call this a day, but I'm going to go in and show you my accomplishments. We're going to come over here and see what we're doing. We're doing over 400 watts, 460 watts in the winds that are blowing here. So I'm getting an extra 460 watts on top of my 1.6 kilowatts of solar. So I'm getting 2 kilowatts of electricity into these panels all day today. And I'm not using that much, even though I was running power tools. Okay, so what did I do today? Well, one thing I did was I built another black box for this refrigerator. I had it sitting on top of that chair for the longest time. And I said, you know, I've got to change that. So I went out and I made this black box. And I made a shelf inside of there so I can put my warm beers on the bottom. I got a place to put some magazines and things like that, so a couple of sodas. So when I take one out, I put one back in. And I always have cool drinks inside of the refrigerator. Now remember, this refrigerator is just one of those little college dorm room type refrigerators. It's real tiny. But I do use this to keep cold drinks and extra things like an extra dozen eggs, some extra bacon. And it does have a freezer inside, so I can keep some stuff in the freezer, so forth and so on. So I like it out here, and I've decided to put it right underneath the TV. So it holds my Roku 2. So I can just sit back here, relax at the table, watch TV, have dinner, have breakfast, all that kind of stuff. Oh, that's one of the things I did. The other thing I did was, well, remember I said I was going to put a drawer in that black box underneath this bigger refrigerator. So I did. And the follower that sent me the handles for all of these, you know who you are, Janice. Anyway, I had one extra handle. And there it is right here. So there it is, my potato drawer. And I can put some extra pans and things like that down in there. So I made this drawer today. Nice little drawer. Just some scrap wood I had laying around. Painted the fascia and set it up with a handle on there so that it's easy to pull out. And I got the guides, or the drawer guides, are roller guides under the drawer, not on the sides of it. So it allowed me to make a wider drawer that just fits inside the cabinet, but it's still easy to open and close because it's got rollers underneath the drawer. Pretty cool, huh? All right. So that's the accomplishments for today. I'm going to cut this one short now. Short, in 24 minutes. Anyway, everybody, thank you for joining me today. Any further questions, put them in the comments section below, and I will try to address them. If it's a longer, drawn-out thing, like the questions I had to answer today, I will do a video on it. It's easier than me wasting an hour typing out an answer, and then you're not understanding it and having to type back to me, and then I type back to you. So this is a lot faster. So if there's anything that I missed, anything you didn't understand, just let me know. G-Bear reminding you, please give me a thumbs up down there. And don't forget to subscribe and share with your friends. G-Bear signing off.